Welcome to Claude 3 function calling with streaming responses. I set this up so it actually can talk to you regularly, keeps track of a message history. I can say my name is Echo and I can ask what is my name and it should remember that. You said your name is Echo, but now we can ask it actually queries. For example, you can say search calculus. Our function is a Wikipedia search and it should return a function that we can execute, and we are doing that right now. And here we go. These are the URLs that are returned and then it answers us. We can just say we just want URLs, for example, and it should hopefully answer us. So we are using Sonnet, and if Sonnet can get confused, it actually returned it as we feed it to function response. And it all actually, when we ask, it performed another function call. Opus performs much better, but currently its API is very busy, so we are testing it with Sonnet. You can also clear the message history by saying -- clear and start from scratch. Like now, if I say, what is my name? It shouldn't remember. It doesn't know. We can say search trigonometry, and it should search Wikipedia for trigonometry. And sometimes it can hallucinate some results itself during the function call. That's why I added this. When you make a function call, do not return anything else into the system message. But it has returned those, and you normally should answer, but sometimes it doesn't. You can say, tell me about these topics. And it's actually explaining the Wikipedia URLs to me. I can also control click and go web page for that, just like that. So all in all, it works pretty well. Like I said, you can use Opus or Sonnet. I'm going to leave it at Sonnet, but feel free to change it. So this is really an interesting implementation. If you read the Claude documentation, it heavily uses XML tags. So essentially, we're going to instruct it to be able to make function calls, and then we're going to actually parse out the responses and whatnot, and then actually call the function. I think there's going to be a better method to call the functions. I'm going to make another video about it soon, maybe tomorrow. But currently, the requirements for this is Anthropic and term color for colorful printing in the terminal. We instantiate our Anthropic model. You do want to instantiate your API key and then enter it here, like this. It'll detect it from environment variables, or you can enter it here. Also, this file will be available at my Patreon. Link will be in the description. And if you do become a patron, you'll have access to over 200 projects that I worked on. And if you do, thank you for your support. And we specify the model name, and then we define a function, which is going to take in a query. I did forget we are using the Wikipedia library, so you do have to pip install that. And we're going to use that to search for the query, return 3 results, get the URLs, and return the joined URLs. That's about it. And then here we have a function to construct a formatted prompt for tool description. So we're going to describe a name, description, and parameters, and it's going to insert it in between these XML tags, such as the tool name, description. And for parameters, we're calling a function called construct format parameters prompt, which is right here, which is going to take in the parameters and actually construct a string and return that. And that's what we insert in parameters. This is similar to OpenAI function calling, except you kind of define it in a custom way. I don't think Anthropic is a standardized way of calling functions just yet. I'm sure they'll get there. So function calling with Claude is a bit like the function calling in the early days of OpenAI, maybe the early days of GPT-4. I'm sure it'll get better. And the next function is function to construct the system prompt from tool usage. So this is going to take in a tools, which is going to be a list. And we are now constructing a system prompt. So with Claude, we don't have system messages, but with system prompts, and we insert them to the API call as a system parameter, not as a message. The messages for Claude can only be user and assistant. And the messages list has to begin with the user role. And it has to always alternate, like user, assistant, user, assistant. Otherwise, you're going to get an error message. So it's not as flexible as OpenAI. But if you keep those things in mind, you should be fine. So in our case, we have only one function, but you can have multiple functions. Before I continue with the system message, I'd like to tell you that you can visit my website at any time to find all the videos I've created, 250 free coding videos, all related to building with GPT and LLMs. The website is echohive.live. A link will be in the description. You can watch the videos here, do perform search for the topics you're interested in. If you're a patron, you can also find the download links to my Patreon. So, like I said, the system prompt creation function is going to take in the tools list. And if you say in this environment, you have access to a set of tools you can use to answer users' questions when necessary. You may call them like this. So we describe it to Claude how it's going to call it. It's going to return this structure to us. And just within the tools XML tags, we are actually, doing an inline list comprehension and injecting each tool. which we're going to describe here in a moment. Like I said, we only have one function. So when Sonny was doing function calls, it actually was trying to answer the query itself as well. That's why I added, when you make function call, do not return anything other than just the function call. So Opus is so much more powerful, and you can really have a lot of room to play with this. Okay, just so don't think this is a perfect implementation. And I returned the tool use system prompt. I actually took the example from the Claude's cookbook, Tropic cookbook, but I modified it so that it keeps message history, it uses streaming responses, and also has a chat loop. Anyway, then we have a function which extracts text between specified tags. So here it's going to take a tag and a string, so we can use this to extract anything we want, and then it returns that, returns a list. And function to construct a prompt for successful function run injection. So we're going to use this to create a new schema for when we've executed our function and we have the results. So we're going to create it like this and then return this, and we're going to actually return it back to Claude so it knows what our function returns. So it's going to call a function, we're going to execute that function, get the results, and return it back to Claude in this format. So here we define the tool name. Like we say tool name, Wikipedia search, tool description, searches Wikipedia for relevant articles and returns their URLs. Define the parameters. Here we define a JSON object or a dictionary with a name, type, and description. This schema needs to match, of course, your function that you're using. And then we construct our tool with using the construct format tool for Claude prompt, right? It takes in these 3 parameters, remember? It's this one right here, up here. And then we construct the system prompt using this. System prompt is dynamically constructed out of all the tools which we have defined. Using that function, we initialize a message history, and then we enter a chat loop. We take in user input, and we check if it is exit, then we break out of this loop. If it is clear, we clear the message history, which you may want to do. I didn't set a limit to the message history, so keep that in mind. And then we create a search message using the user input. So we create a search message, which we are going to insert into our message history, which is simply just the role user and content user input, and we append it to our message history. And then now we're going to get an assistance response. We do that by calling client.messages create, model name. You do have to specify mix tokens. You do have to specify messages, and you do have to specify a model name. Otherwise, you'll get an error from the API. So these 3 is a must: model, mix tokens, and messages. And then you don't have to specify a system prompt, but here we are specifying out of the one that we've constructed, and we're setting streaming true. To deal with streaming messages, we first set an empty string, assistant response text, and then we loop over the assistant response, which is going to arrive from the API. We loop for events, and we check for content block delta. If so, we print the delta.text attributes of that with using and and flush, so we can read it nicely on the terminal, using the colored from term color, and then we append each chunk to the assistant response text. So now we can actually insert it back to our messages history. So here's the thing. So we want to check that the message doesn't contain function calls tag. If not, this was a regular chat message we added. Otherwise, we check for if there is a function call in assistant response, then we perform all that stuff to do our function call. So when we were chatting with it, like regularly, such as like saying hi, it should respond regularly. When it does, we are in this condition because there's no function call. When you say something like search trigonometry, it's going to return this function call tag, and break out of it, and then we'll be in this condition, and then we're going to extract between tags. Tags we are using is query, as you can see down here, and then we get the 0th element using, of course, we're extracting from the assistant response text. So that's our query, and then we call our function with that query, we get our result, we print it. That is what you see when we're printing in magenta. And then we format the results. So it's a dictionary it's a list of dictionaries, tool name, and the result. Now we need to, so this is a bit of a janky part of the Claude's function calling. We're now going to construct the injection prompt using these formatted results, which is going to turn it to this format. And now we're going to even construct the fuller message with the assistant response text. And now we add a function calls tag. And now we add the function results. And then that is actually what we are going to send. Make a call back to the Claude. It's going to be the final message, right? So now we got our result. We're going to send it back, see if it says anything in return. And then we perform the same thing. And then we append it back to its message history. So this is really how it works. Like I said, it's not a perfect implementation, but it definitely can use some improvements. But this is a good start. Like I said, it's going to come with the Sonnet. The code files will be available at my Patreon, like I said, but you can feel free to change it to Opus. Also, if you're interested in function calling in general, you can search for function call in my website, and I have quite a lot of videos centered around function calling and fine tuning as well. So take a look at those, and they're quite interesting, nevertheless. Also, while you're there, check out my project AutoStreamer, which auto creates educational content which you can learn from. You can record it and you can live stream it because it creates a course website in real time. For example, this is the one we've created in a Python course. We created in this live stream. You can watch the live stream. I show you how you can deploy it as well at the end of the live stream. And you can purchase this from my Patreon shop currently for $200. Also, I'm on Twitter at the tag at hive_echo. If you'd like to follow me there. I do more posts there than I do on YouTube if you are interested. Also, if you'd like to talk about large language models, we have a nice Discord server with over 1,000 members. The link will be in the description if you want to join the discussion. So thank you very much. Like I said, these files will be available at my Patreon. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.